What's up, guys? So today's video is going to be about bread and circus. Let's get started. Let's start off with the bread part of this phrase. So, what is the bread? So it's the offering of a palliative distraction. So in this case here, food or bread. That's all it means, food and bread. So palliative means remedy or medicine, and the Latin root for palliative is palliare, which means to cloak. So maybe a little bit of a deception here about what bread really is, but it's just a cloak to distract you. So in Rome, it was quite literally bread, which was free to the masses. So what's some examples of modern day bread? So we have food stamps. I mean, this is quite literally what this is. It's not free, but neither was the bread either. But it's free at like the point of sale. I guess they're free at the point of delivery. So when you get your little card or on your EBT card, well, that's bread. For the middle class, it's Uber Eats. So the Uber Eats can actually afford their own bread, or sorry, the Uber Eats, but the middle class can actually afford their own bread. But they want the convenience of not having to leave their own house. So we placate them by making Uber Eats and other apps like what's the other one called? The Postmates and the rest of them. DoorDash. All these apps are basically just a way to placate you to make you like, okay, well, stay inside if you want, and here's a way for you guys to get food without ever having to leave your house. Wow, nice. Fast food. This is probably about as close to bread without paying for it yourself as you can probably get. So it's effectively just a way to it's cheap food, get your calories in. You can buy 85 hamburgers for $6, and you're good to go, right? Your gut's full and you're fat. And of course, there's government housing. Government housing, once again, it's either extremely cheap or it's free. And because it's free, well, it's bread. Like you get it for free, keeps you alive. Bread is effectively a way to feed the base man or the base person, the base masses. And I'm sure you guys can think of a myriad of other types of bread that one could offer, that the government could offer you to keep you placated. Now, what about circus? What is circus? Well, circus is just entertainment. So in Rome, that was the Circus Maximus, the Colosseum type shit, the theaters, all that stuff. So what are some examples of modern day circuses? We have politics. I mean, let's be real here. Our politics are kind of shit in our country, so at least in America. Like it's kind of a fucking train wreck. It's a fucking joke, and like we're all watching it, wondering what the fuck's gonna happen next. Like it's kind of a circus there. 24-hour news perpetuates politics, obviously, but like 24-hour news is in and of itself a circus. Like it's quite literally just like bullshit news all fucking day long, the same stories over and over and over and over again for 24 hours until something new pops up, and like the old stories just dive out and nobody gives a crap about it anymore. Like what the fuck ever happened to those lost planes from 3 years ago, right? Like what the fuck? Who gives a shit, right? YouTube is circus. Okay, they keep you placated with relatively, at least free at the point of service, videos. You can go on YouTube and keep clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking and go to the next video. It keeps you placated. It keeps you happy. You got entertainment right in front of you. You can go on your phone now with YouTube. You always could, but yeah, you can go on your phone now with YouTube. Internet. I mean, these things are kind of connected here, but once again, internet. You look up meme after meme after meme after meme after meme, and it's like, okay, I'm happy. I'm getting these quick dopamine rushes to my brain are making me happy. It makes me feel like I'm accomplishing something. You haven't done shit. Sports ball. So all forms of sports. Football, basketball, baseball, hockey. These are all coping, dude. This is all sports ball. Okay, like this is a circus, dude. Oh yeah, I got another man's last name on my fucking back, dude. We won the Super Bowl, even though you weren't fucking on the team. But either way, it makes you feel good. It's circus, dude. And of course, there's porn. Fucking porn. Fucking placate your ass to the nth degree, dude. Can't get pussy? Well, just watch porn, dude. Keep them placated. Circus, more circus. Keep watching that extreme BDSM and beyond crap. Keep watching it. All right, so what is bread and circus put together? Well, it's a phrase that critiques superficial appeasement by politicians. So effectively, it's a cheap way for the government to generate public approval, not by excellence in public service or policy, but rather by diversion or distraction. So it's just a distraction. Okay, if the politicians can't solve the higher end problems, well, they're going to satisfy your low end problems to keep you from rebelling. By satisfying the most base requirements of the populace, i.e., food, water, and shelter, well, they can generally keep you in a state of like, okay, well, I'm not starving and I'm entertained, so I'm happy. Like, I'm not happy, but I'm content. It's to keep you content, keep you from actually realizing that, oh, we're not doing too good right now. The country's in a free fall, and we have no way out of this. It's coping. It's coping on a mass scale. I'll get to this stuff later. And then, the modern day version of this is modern day just base consumerism. Now, we all engage in consumerism, but consumerism being like the end all be all of somebody's life is that's just fucking straight up like it's sad. It's sad in a way, and it's also coping, obviously, but like it's sad. Like if consumerism is what gets you up in the morning, you have problems, dude. We have problems when the average consumer is just like buy more stuff, buy more stuff, buy more stuff, and keep buying stuff. So the phrase was used by Juvenal to decry the selfishness of the common people and their neglect of wider concerns. It implies an erosion or ignorance of civic duty as a priority. Now, the real question here I would ask this juvenile guy would be, well, what came first? The selfishness of the common people or the politicians becoming shit? These two things work together. If the politicians are shit and you keep getting shittier and shittier politicians, are the people really going to be much better? But then the question becomes, who put them in power? Like they both feed off of one another, so it's kind of hard to find like the actual real source. You could argue that the people elected these shitheads and the shitheads ruined things, and then I don't know, like you can argue about it in the comment section all day long about who caused what. If you blame the politicians in a republic, well, you're implicitly blaming the people too. The people it puts the people in power. If the people aren't educated or if they don't make an informed vote, well, they get what they fucking deserve, right? Like you get the leaders you deserve, not the ones you want. George Carlin had a great stand-up comedy about this, saying that like where are all the good politicians at? Where all the good people are running for office? And it's like we don't have any of those people. Okay, the politicians don't come from nowhere. They don't come out the fucking sky. They came from American schools and American education and stuff like that. And the people also came from those same institutions. Maybe not as high end, but they did come from America. So like, if our leaders are shit, well, what's to say about the people? They're also shit. There's a black pill for your ass. So we have the modern day consumer. So don't ask questions, just consume product, and then get excited for the next product. This dude right here, I mean, I hate to use this guy's video, this guy's face, but he was just like literally just like this cuck face guy who was like, oh my god, Star Wars is gonna get like, dude, like Star Wars is fucking dead, dude. Like, but you're still excited, you're hyped for this shit? Alright, dude. And like, yeah, he probably went and saw every single one because he got excited. And I guarantee you he's damn near excited for the next. When's the next Star Wars coming out? I can't wait. Like, okay, well, it sucks now, dog. Like, give it up. But let's keep going with the shit. So, buying stuff gives us a quick and easy dopamine high. So, dopamine, if you don't know, is the reward drug of the brain. So, they can keep us happy and register in our brains as a sense of achievement. So, if we keep giving them cheap and easy dopamine highs, once again, it keeps us happy and it registers as a sense of achievement, or at least it gives us a good feeling in our brain. It makes us feel good. Because this high dies down really fast, we are looking for the next big thing to buy, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. As you can see, you guys know where this is going. Well, if we keep looking for the next thing, well, it never shows up. We're always looking for the next thing. This is how the dating apps work too, especially for women. Women will keep looking for the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And until they realize that, oh, I left all the good men back there. So, and this happens for consumers too. We're always looking for the next big TV, the next new Xbox or fucking PlayStation coming out, the next new video game. And this stuff is not, there's nothing wrong with liking stuff. But when stuff becomes the end-all be-all of a country and of the population, well, bad things happen. It means these people have no higher ideals to aspire to. Now, you could argue that those ideals are built on bullshit, but it's like I don't know, there's something to be said about wanting to aspire to higher virtues versus like just appealing to base desires of like food, water, and shelter. You might as well just become a monkey than live out in the fucking woods. It's consumerism, modern day consumerism is the bread and circus of our modern age, and it's just cheap thrills for the base man and the base woman too. So this Juvenal guy, he had a great quote here. I'm gonna fucking mess up this word here. I know I am, but anyway, if the old emperor had been surreptitiously, whatever, smothered, that same crowd in a moment would have hailed their new Augustus. They shed their sense of responsibility long ago, when they lost their votes and the bribes. The mob that used to grant power, high office, the legions, everything curtails its desires and reveals its anxiety for two things only: bread and circuses. I hear that many will perish, no doubt. The furnace is huge. He's talking about how, like, the people lost all the power, and the way they kept them placated by saying that, well, even though we took your power away, but you guys still have bread and circus, right? It's like, well, shit. Like, at the end of the day, like, the people just wanted bread and circus, and that's what the fucking people gave them. They became an autocracy or a oligarchy, or what you want to call it, and they get what they fucking deserve. Juvenal claimed that the only hopes or desires left for the tattered Romans who lost their freedoms to an oligarchy were bread and circuses, the latter referencing the gladiatorial games, which were free to view for citizens. So, you can say sports aren't really free to view, but you can look at stuff like YouTube. It's free to view, and you get to watch, people do stupid shit, or watch famous people do dumb shit. And it's like, oh wow, the gladiatorial games are on. Or, oh look, what's this dude doing? What's the drama over here? Oh my god, like this is how they keep you placated. This is how they keep you happy. They keep you just as long as they can keep anxiety down and they can keep you guys a little bit calmer. They give you a nice drug and they give you cheap alcohol and cheap thrills. Well, they can generally keep this going for as long as the economy keeps pumping out more bullshit. So when is bread and circus used? So it's generally used. Now it's always being used. It's always in a state of bread and circus, but it's simply a matter of degrees. Okay, like if you look at like World War II, everybody still had to eat, everybody still had to be entertained, but it wasn't the primary driver of the U.S. at the time. The primary driver, the thing that kept the country together and going, was the war. When society begins to decay morally, socially, etc., you can put any sort of like thing that can decay in there. Even like the government can decay. But especially moral decay. When things start to decay morally, it's when people start losing hope in the system. When the system starts dying, well, people start looking for copes. So it's coping on a mass scale. Okay, like if you're not roping, then you're coping, but not all coping is created equally. Okay, like once again, what I said earlier was like, yeah, even though during World War II people were still eating and going to the movies or something like that, it was the primary driver can't be bread and circus. It could be, but there are consequences to that too. And bread and circus is not always a bad thing. It can be used tactically too. So like, let's say like we don't really know what the government or our leaders don't really know what to do next. Okay, well, they could use bread and circus as like a stopgap to say, okay, well, we're gonna do bread and circus for a few. Now they're probably not gonna say bread and circus, but we're gonna placate the mess for a little bit longer to see if we can get new blood and new leadership up here to help us come up with new ideas. This is probably the tactic being used here. And if this doesn't happen, though, well, the problem with using it is that it can end up very badly because if things get too bad before if the bread and circus starts to wear off and people start breaking out of the fucking system, they're like, wait, there's no more bread, there's no more circus, I'm mad now. Well, if things get bad enough, well, it leaves the door open for a dictator or an autocrat or any sort of other authoritarian government that you probably wouldn't like. Okay, let's keep going. So, when society loses its moral center in leadership, and leadership either can or won't do the hard things to get society back on track, that's when bread and circus becomes dangerous. Okay, so when I talk about the hard things, when leadership won't do the hard things, what do I mean? So, if you've ever been a leader before or been in a position of leadership, you should know that you should almost never do what your followers or your workers want you to do. You should always do what they need. Like you should always give the people what they need, not what they want. Okay, if you're a leader of anything, okay, like giving people what they want, like people could want anything, but like giving people what they need is a lot harder to do. Passing a social policy that restricts the rights of people is a hard thing to do. passing any policy at all that either restricts or inhibits people to do things that they want to do is going to go over badly. But it's the job of a leader, of a CEO, of a king, or anybody like that, to have the foresight to see, okay, but where are we going? Like leadership is supposed to know what it's supposed to think more strategically. Like strategy is more grand, strategy is more like more of a macro idea, and managers or is more micro. Like you're looking at the day-to-day actions, whereas the leadership, the dude at the top, the head of the snake, is supposed to be macro. He's supposed to be looking at where are we going, and are we going in a good direction? He needs to have a 5 to 10 year plan to figure out where are we going. And sometimes doing the wrong thing or the thing that's considered to be wrong now is the right thing for the future. The problem is though we have leaders who would rather, once again, like our system is built upon the idea of like we have to get re-elected in the next 3 years, 2 years, 4 years. So you're constantly in the state of like, well, I'm only thinking about the next 4 years. I'm only thinking about the next 2 years. If you're a representative, like you're always thinking about short-term gains and long-term losses. You don't care about the future. Well, why the hell would you? If you're not in power that long, who gives a fuck? Leave it up to the next guy when the system fucking explodes, and he has to fix it for you. And once again, it's always in a state of bread and circus. It's a matter of degrees. I already went over this a few times, but once again, like during the space race, World War II, the Cold War, we had an enemy. I'm gonna get here now. So we have nations need enemies or threats, or at least a mission of some sort. So like, the space race, World War II, the Cold War, we had a defined enemy, and it gave people something to focus on and a mission to accomplish that, which was destroy the enemy. When you run out of enemies, or when you run out of things that need to be fixed, it's when things get kind of like, I want to say boring, but like when things begin to like decay. A society that loses its will to fight or its will to progress and keep going forward, well, they're going to stagnate. And when they start stagnating, well, you start, you know, there's the old saying of like, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Like when you start doing nothing, is when you start doing bad things. Is when bad things tend to happen. I'm not going to make maybe it's a bit of a blanket statement there, but I hope I'm making some sense here. Like, if a country doesn't have some sort of like either an enemy or a threat or a mission statement to follow, well, their foundation of like what they're all working towards is effectively nothing. It's basically hedonism. It's everybody's out for themselves. Nobody gives a crap about the grand about the nation anymore, and everybody's just trying to get theirs. Everybody's trying to grab bag, and I want the most women, and I want the most money, and I want the most food, and I want the most biggest house, and like, okay, well, this is just rampant consumerism. This is all this is. This is rampant consumerism. Without an enemy or threat, there's just rampant consumerism. Now, the last tactics that we used were the war on terror, and this kept us going for a little bit longer. Not 9/11, whether it was a good thing or bad, well, definitely a bad thing, but it was a good thing in some way too, because it brought the country together in some weird sort of way. Like we all had a common threat now, which was, we have to kill the terrorist, we have to kill this guy, we have to kill that guy. We have to fight the terrorism, we have to fight terrorism. On top of that, it also gives the politicians a really easy tactic to use. Like, terrorism is just a tactic. It's not a you can be a terrorist, but like we said, it's the war on terror. Well, terror is just like a word. Like we didn't really have a defined enemy after like we got rid of like once we stormed into fucking Baghdad and took the whole country over. It was over, dude. Like that war was done in like a week. We had effectively taken out Baghdad. We stormed into Iraq, took the capital, and it was over in a fucking week. Like our military is that fucking good. So we shifted from we need to find the terrorists that did 9/11 to, oh, now it's a war on terror. We have to fight terror. It's a good tactic because like, well, you can keep the war on terror going forever. If you're good enough, if you're able to like use the right words and keep the unrest in the region going, you can keep that war going on for fucking ever, dude. You know, ISIS was probably like maybe their last big stand. I don't know. Like, what's the next big terrorist group going to be? Who knows? I guess the new one, like Trump's trying to establish China as being the rival now, and then we're using terms like trade war. We're trying to get people into a mindset of war. What for? I have no clue. But when those words mean something, a trade war. Okay, well we're in a trade war right now. The trade wars can sometimes lead to real wars, And normally they do. Like when two countries are fighting one another on a trading platform. Well, they're trying to like, okay, well, I want power, you want power. We're fighting over economic power right now, and that could lead to a hot war, theoretically. And the Democrats seem to be trying to establish Russia as being the new bad guy, which isn't working out too well because it's a dumb tactic for them anyway. So let me read this quote here. So by Cicero, that the evil was not in bread and circus per se, but in the willingness of the people to sell their rights as free men for full bellies and the excitement of the games, which would serve to distract them from the other human hungers which bread and circus could never appease. Let it sink in. So, boyos, take the bread pill. It's black. There's a mark on it. You'll love it. Alright, so this has been Mystery School. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. There's a really good video, maybe some fucking homework, called Century of the Self. You can watch the entire thing on YouTube. It's free. It's a really good video about like conditioning and our general where our consumerist mindset came from. It's a really good video. I highly recommend that you watch it. Maybe come back here and talk about it in the comment section or something like that. Also, people should use that discussion thing on my page. I don't know. I'm not probably not big enough for that shit to matter, but it'd be kind of cool. So see you guys.